Hello, welcome back to the GenAI podcast. I'm Toby White. We're joined today by Jamie, my co-host, and today we're also joined by Jack Persky, who is the CEO for Great Wave AI. So, Jack, welcome. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Hello, thank you both for having me. It's great to be here. Right, what do you want to know about me? 20 years, a million years ago, I was a soldier. After that, 20 years in IT services and consulting for people like Atos and EY. The last 10 years of that, I was operating at kind of partner level and above. And about 3 years ago, I was with some colleagues at the time called Harrison and Sam, and it must be 4 years ago now, and we bumped into what was then GPT-2, and we thought, wow, amazing tech. It's going to change the world. I can talk to computers. Computers can read stuff. Oh, my goodness. The applications for this are endless. That was our first thought. And then the second thought was knowing what we know about government and enterprise-y type organizations, that's completely unusable. This is a wonderful technology. It's completely unusable in the places that probably need it the most. And why is it unusable? It's because it's sort of probabilistic. It's hard to sort of train on your unique processes and data, and it's very black boxy, and all those things are really hated in the enterprise environment. And so that was the opening hypothesis for our business. Is there a way we can provide the infrastructure to make it much more consumable for these organizations that desperately need it? And 4 years later, exactly where we are. Great Wave AI is pretty much the go-to infrastructure layer, sort of governance layer for generative AI in the UK. And we count people like the Insolvency Service, TalkTalk, and Warwickshire Police as our clients, which is super exciting.
Oh, Jack, I think one of the main things to discuss there is resilience and agentic systems. A lot of the work that we have to do is around, people are playing around with AI. They're trying to build their own agents, but they never really do the job it needs to do, and it's certainly never accurate enough, and it's not going to last the test of time. In a year's time, if they build a HR agent, for example, are they still going to be having those same conversations with the HR agent in a year? If they build it themselves, the answer is no. So what does resilience mean, and how do you guys solve that problem?
Right, great question, and one that we love to talk about. So what does resilience mean to us? It means two things, and I make no apologies I'll say these two words again and again and again. It means trust and it means control. And Great Wave AI is all about generative AI with trust and control. That's our sort of tagline. But we haven't chosen that randomly, right? So what does that actually mean? What does trust mean? Well, trust means it's good enough. And you talked there about how poor the quality is for most of these proof of concepts. So we have a phrase that most people are POCing in cul-de-sacs. So there's no way out of these proof of concepts. They're creating agents, for want of a better word, that look good, that can deliver 80%, impress the board, but then when a subject matter expert gets hold of it, they fall apart, right? And they find weaknesses in them. And everyone thinks, well, there's only at the edges, and that subject matter expert gave it a real ringing, a real running over. Surely, if we're a bit more pragmatic, we can get some value from this. But essentially, as I keep saying to people, an 80% solution is a 0% solution for almost every use case. So what does resilience mean for me? First of all, resilience means quality, right? And it doesn't just mean being good. It means being able to evidence that it's good, right? And that's really, really key. And if you can evidence that it's good at the point of implementation, point of go live, you can then monitor that it's staying good, because LLM drift is real. Changes in process and documentation always happen around organizations. So you've got to be able to monitor that quality as well. So you've got to be able to deliver quality, evidence quality, and then monitor it. That's the first bit of resilience. And the second bit is that's the trust bit, and then the second bit is the control bit. Well, you've got to be able to see this stuff, right? One of the things we see people do a lot is in big organizations, sort of organizations we work with, they might have 3, 4, 5, 6 different teams all spinning up GenAI pilots, all, by the way, POCing in cul-de-sacs, all POCing using slightly different systems, all POCing in different ways with different infrastructure. And the issue with that is you've got no way to see across your emerging GenAI landscape, right?
Yeah.
You can't see across it. You don't know where it touches. You can't control it. You can't manage it. So for me, resilience is everything, and everything is trust and control. And they're the things we really care about. And by the way, we've got a whole video on our website about delivering trust and control. It is entirely doable by the organization itself. You don't need to buy a platform like ours, but in the same way that you can build your own website, but there's still a business case for WordPress. We feel that for a lot of organizations, it's helpful to have a starting framework.
Yeah. Okay, fascinating. That's really interesting because we've been doing a lot of stuff in terms of kind of board advisory lately, and there is a massive disconnect in terms of the knowledge, where for them 80% sounds great because they associate it with a 40% cost saving, right? And actually it might be a 40% cost saving, but it's not necessarily 40% efficiency saving, and that's the big difference. So a lot of the work that we're doing at the moment is, okay, how do we educate at a board level and go, okay, this is as a board, you need to be having a person who's an expert, who can be there as an advisor, which is basically all we do as Artemis, and can really whisper in your ear and say, this is where you should be, this is what you should be targeting, these are the KPIs, these are the metrics, and not going into it blind, which a lot of boards, across the world right now are going into it going, we're adopting AI, and they're just kind of nodding their head and saying, yes, that sounds great, because they're looking at the numbers and the savings, but there's no one there really telling them this is what the baseline should be for starters. Yeah. This is, the level of trust we should ever have in it, coming back to what you said. And I think that's a really, really interesting point that you've made there.
Yeah, like number one job. So everyone loves inventing case studies, use cases, right? And it's all fun and games. But number one job with your long list of use cases is what's our quality threshold for each of these? And so first of all, if you've got a use case where, in all honesty, our quality threshold's 100%, then it's not a GenAI use case, right? It's just you can step away from it. Anything below that, you can probably engineer your way towards, but you've got to be super careful. By the way, 100% also is not a human trait either, but at least you've got someone to blame, basically, which is why for 100% problems, we tend to point at humans.
Cool.
Jamie, you look like your man got a question.
And you mentioned yeah. I mean, the LLM observability is something which I find extremely interesting, and we are sort of also tracking. What would you say the importance of tracking that output over time for GenAI systems in ensuring the long-term quality of essentially or value that AI systems can deliver?
Yeah, like there is no, everyone repeat after me, there is no GenAI without effective and ongoing management and monitoring management, right? Like there is no technology, and this isn't the GenAI swipe. There just is no technology you would deploy without monitoring it. Like, it doesn't happen. Cars have got speedometers in them. They have MOTs. You just can't think of a technology that you don't track, right? And you don't look after and keep your eye on. And GenAI will be no different. It is no different. It must be monitored in order to be used. Right? It's just it. And you've got to be able to evidence. If you say this is, you go, right, 9 times out of 10, this will give an appropriate, helpful, useful answer to our users. Right? That's an okay stat. You go, okay, now you've got to be able to back that up. How do I know that? Well, I know that because I've run it 1,000 times. And here's the dashboard that evidences all those 1,000 runs that I've done. And here's where it goes wrong. And by the way, on the 10% that it goes wrong, 80% of those are inconsequential errors. And then we've got this, small rump group of sort of consequential errors. Here's the breakdown into them. Here's the categories. Here's the mitigation we've put in place to mean these consequential errors won't go any further, whatever it is. But if you can't have that entire conversation, and by the way, almost no one who's building exciting POCs on Copilot Studio or in GPT Enterprise will ever have anything compelling in those areas, then you just can't deploy it. No sane person would ever let you deploy it.
Yeah. And what sort of techniques do you recommend using to best deploy it? Obviously, you can get AI evaluators, which help at scale, but also how important would you say having human in the loop for that evaluation piece is? How important is that? Because something I've found is like, you can, obviously it's the AI evaluation is useful and can automate essentially the evaluation, but if you don't have that human in the loop to check that the evaluators are doing their job essentially, then it sort of means that they're a little bit pointless.
So I'd say
what's your sort of thoughts on that?
Yeah, okay, there's a couple of things in there. So I'm going to do infrastructure, evaluation, human in the loop, maybe in that order. Right, so the first thing is whatever your use case, whatever you're doing, you're going to need the infrastructure, the monitoring and audit infrastructure. And there are people out there who've built that themselves from scratch, and that's fine. There are, as you say, components you can buy and weave together, or there are kind of complete solutions you can buy licenses for. On the the human in the loop stuff, I'm really torn on human in the loop, because so in the old days when automobiles were first invented, only the very, very rich would have it, and they brought out a law that's, I don't know if this is apocryphal, I don't know if it's actually true, but it's sort of in popular culture anyway, so let's say it's true. They brought out a law saying, look, we're worried about all these people going super fast in their horses' carriages, so the safety mechanism is you've got to have someone walking in front of your car with a red flag, right? And that was the safety mechanism for a while that stopped anyone going above walking pace. And I feel a bit like human in the loop. That is human in the loop, right? It's essentially this safety mechanism, which on the face of it makes things safer, but actually constrains the whole value of that new technology, right? What is the point of having a car if you have to have a man in front of you walking with a red flag? And I feel like that with human in the loop. However, what I'm absolutely certain of is that human feedback is what drives improvement in quality. So again, something we learned from our platform, we've got all these sort of shiny features we thought were amazing. And then we brought in this new feature, which we all thought was a bit lame, which is essentially allowing people to feedback on the kind of proto agents that we build. And actually, that's been the real glue that stuck everything together. So what we now do is we build agents fast because all the components are pre-built, all the infrastructure's there. We put it out to subject matter experts that day. We give them a week to play with it. And we tell them, this won't be great. Break it, find its problems, find what it doesn't know, understand it. And then they feedback in the platform. We collect all that feedback every week and we do these iterations. What's super, super powerful about that and really unexpected is all that human feedback. Yeah, that improves the agents. It's really, really quick. By the way, everything you were doing in DevOps around software development is way too slow for GenAI. If you're doing 2-week sprints, you need to be doing 2-day sprints in GenAI. It's just the pace of the way things go. It just learns quicker. It is quicker to do. So all that feedback improves the agent. But what was really surprising was all that process improves the human user's relationships with that agent, by which I mean they understand what it can and can't do. They feel they've been engaged in improving its performance, getting up to level, and all the boundaries and barriers are set around it. And So that whole process, so I'd say human in the loop, I'm not wedded to. I think it's a bit of sticky plaster. Human as centerpiece of agent development, yes, I'm 100% in on, and that's another thing your infrastructure needs to be able to enable.
Okay, that's really interesting. So I think, one of the things that we've always prided ourselves on is the fact that we are curious, for lack of a better term. People engage with us because they want us to think outside the box. They want us to be curious. They want us to come up with really rogue ideas that actually solve that problem really well. And there's some really weird stories and case studies I could say about that have really surprised people. And maybe that's a story for another day. But the reason we do that is because we've got, we encourage everyone to be curious, and we make sure that they go off on their own trains of thought, and they're all very different, and we lead them to it. And basically, whenever we start a project, everyone has a day to come up with, just go and think about it and figure out how you can solve this in a novel way or in a clever way. And nearly always across the suite of our team, something clever is imagined. And I think that imagination is key to being able to find worldwide optimums when building these agents, rather than being, at your kind of local optimum, which works for a certain amount of things. But, we've all seen that graph where, there's a hill here and then there's a higher hill over here. And based on the algorithm you use, it brings you to the top of the second highest hill, and I think that's something that, especially with agents, we really need to avoid getting into that situation. How do your team and on an internal level and also on an external level prevent that from happening, and more than anything, encouraging that exploration?
So focus. So I think, what you're talking about is a combination of focus and imagination, right? So you want to have a single thing that you're brilliant at, and for us, it is about generative AI with trust and control. So that means we say no to work quite often. Like, lots of people, when they come with their GenAI project, it actually turns out it's a machine learning or a data science project. We just don't do it. Or it's process automation. We just don't do that. We're just focused on GenAI with trust and control. And then, so with that piece of focus, then we're free to use tons of imagination. So we can center ourselves around a single problem, then run at it. And the imagination comes from understanding what the end user needs to get out of this system. And then it doesn't really matter how you get there, right? And you give people the freedom. So you've got this contained area. This is our space. That's where we need to get to. How we get there is up to you. And we can give people the freedom to go and do that. And that's what's fun about the job we do, and fun about working in a company like ours. I'm sure yours is the same way.
Yeah. And I think, agents in particular are fun, and it is extremely exciting to, I suppose, experience some of the progress which you can make. I suppose the doors that it opens up. Where do you think the future of agents lie, Jack, in terms of what impact it can have for businesses, and sort of, how many agents or what systems businesses will have, like the everyday business will have in 5 years time or so, or maybe 2 years time?
Yeah, fine. So I think both less and more than people imagine. So it's a really annoying thing. But basically, I think that people are looking at the progress being made over the last few years around language models and extrapolating out. So one of the stories I always say is, I'm going to get the dates wrong, but I think it was 1902, the first powered flight. 1969, man lands on the moon, right? So we go 67 years. End to end. And so the people then go, well, imagine what 50 years after, you just follow that line, you go, right, from first powered flight to being on the moon, 50 years after that, we will be in amongst the interstellar travel, right? Obviously, of course we must be, and that's what fueled science fiction and imagine. But of course, technologies don't go like that. They don't run linearly or exponentially for, ad infinitum. They plateau out. And that's exactly what we saw with aviation. And in fact, the moon landings turned out to be an absolute peak. And now we have, aircraft that, the real innovations are about bigger, more fuel efficient, less noisy aircraft, longer range, blah, blah, all that sort of stuff. So, your innovation boundaries go into different places. And I think we're in the same place with generative AI. People are like, 5 years ago, I couldn't talk to my computer. And now it can talk to me, albeit in a slightly odd form. Crikey, in 10 years, it will be able to do all the washing up, and it will organize my life, and I'll be an amazing personal assistant. No, I'm not convinced of that, actually. I think language model in particular, partly because language itself is an imperfect technology, so it's full of complexity and variance and uncertainty. But I think so that's my caveat. I don't actually think this amazing technology is going to take us off to where a lot of people are saying. What I do think is that even the technology we have, and actually even sort of GPT-3 level tech, like well back from frontier level language models, are capable today of transforming a huge amount of work, right? Huge amount of stuff, from basic admin to searching documents to transforming data to doing all sorts of cool stuff. And where do I think that will take us? I have this phrase, or this view of a company, that now every organization can be split into two halves: the human half and the machine half, right? And the human half is unique every day. It's all about interactions. Like the human half of a hospital, the nurses and the doctors interacting with the patients, what have you. Then there's a machine half, which is all about applying process, and the process written down, and the data is fixed and set. So the machine half of a hospital might be, taking tests through to a thing, or finding out, doing the admin, or doing the payroll, blah, all this sort of stuff. The problem we have today, and the problem that I think generative AI has the opportunity to solve, is you've got a whole load of humans in the machine half of organizations. In fact, the machine half of organizations often has more humans than the human half of organizations. And they all feel like they're doing good human work, but they're not. They're just taking fixed data sets, applying fixed rules, and doing things. It could be procurement or whatever. Jamie, in your world, right? All these people running procurement tenders, it's not a human task. You're applying fixed rules to fixed data sets. It's a machine task. All of that stuff is ready to be machined, which will bring with it, and I'm not belittling this, a shed load of transition shock, right? There are loads of good people doing good jobs and good work for respectable wages that will find that good work no longer required. However, at a sort of social level, it will be good for humanity, because it will realign humans to doing human work, which is fundamentally human-on-human interactions. It's imaginative. It's fulfilling. This will be good for us. But I don't think that. I don't really buy into any of the sci-fi kind of views on where the next 10 years take us. I think broadly, less humans doing admin, more machines doing admin, more humans doing cool human tasks.
Okay, interesting. So I'm pretty sure that's all we've got time for today. Jack, wrapping up, last words. If you could say, I'm putting you on the spot a bit here, I will warn you. If you could say in one sentence where you think we're going to be in terms of usage of agents in 5 years' time, what would it be?
5 years, certainly within 10 years, every company, well, maybe in 5 years, every company will have more agents than they have staff, right? Very soon, much sooner than we realize. Right. And when that happens, they're going to ask themselves, how do we monitor, manage, and control these agents, of which we have far more than we have staff?
Interesting. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
And we would love to have you back on again very soon.
Always happy to be here.
Cheers.
Great Wave is very proud to be a fully GenAIOps compliant platform. We're a big, we love the Centre for GenAIOps and all the work you're doing. So please keep it up.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, great.